MLK Show. I'm so excited. My friend Miriam's here today, and I want her to tell you all about who she is and how she got involved in this and all the amazing things she's done. And why don't you say hello? Hi.
Hello. Hi,
Hi.
Mel.
Hi,
Happy
love.
to
Oh,
be
it's so
here.
great to have your energy here. You're such a positive
Thank
force.
you. Thank you. And I missed you at the Capitol, and now we're
I
domestic
know.
terrorists. So I'll begin just by saying I'm a journalist, a real journalist of 25 years. I graduated from Montreal University. I studied communications in Vancouver. I came to LA in 96, and my first job was working for Channel 4 MSNBC, producing the news for the internet at a very exciting time. I've been part of the internet, and then after working covering the news, I was so disenchanted and I quit, and then I became a hustling freelance journalist. So I was writing for the Hollywood Reporter and Marie Claire and LA Magazine and Penthouse. And then I had an accident. I was hit by a Ford Explorer at 29 and at 35 miles an hour in front of the Bodhi tree, which is a now defunct
I know I used to go there a lot.
metaphysical
Wow, what a weird
bookstore.
place to have that happen.
You know, and when I was 13 and I had my spiritual awakening, I read Out on a Limb, and she mentions the Bodhi tree. So I would go there often. Anyway, I had to learn how to walk again. I broke several bones. I had a metal rod put in my leg. And then the bees flew into my life, and I directed Vanishing of the Bees, which is now directed by Elliot Page. And that really opened my eyes to the food supply. And I had already had a rude awakening because as a Canadian, I had health insurance, and Western medicine was not there for me. So I really delved into nutrition and alternative medicine and really healed myself, took the rod out, made the movie, then ironically got sprayed by chemicals in Dominican Republic I was there for an environmental film festival. And then I thought I had lupus and fibro, and then realized it was chemical body burden. And the doctors just wanted to put me on prednisone, told me I had an autoimmune condition. So I spent 6 years and I reversed my condition, used many different things. I studied functional medicine. I became a consultant last year. I also, after making the movie, launched Honey Colony, which is a magazine and marketplace. And then I started selling CBD, and then I started getting attacked by CBD. And just tell your audience that they were creating a synthetic CBD that was GW Pharma was behind that. And GW Pharma has an exclusive marketing agreement with Bayer.
Ugh.
And so I tell people, what are the chances of selling, having bees and bud in common with Bayer?
Nothing.
And alliteration. So then they started attacking me, and I started covering techno-fascism. And eventually we were getting 500,000 unique visitors a month, and we didn't have VC injections. Everything was from scratch. And I had content that was in the future, really focusing on autoimmune conditions and functional medicine. And then we got buried, and I found out about Google's Medic update and found out that there were no more organic searches. And I was working on a story, and I was also reading 1984 again. And then I came across Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower. And I was like, oh, maybe this guy can, I can quote him and he can confirm some of my findings, which were at the time that Google's a drug company. And I broke that story. I found out they were involved in the decade of vaccines, and I was just aghast. And I met Zach, and he really, cemented a lot of things. And I've been grateful to have him in my life to be fighting the deep state. And so then I got really political because I started with the Rona. I'm almost finished. This was last year.
I love it. Talk.
In January, I had covered Operation Samoa, which was vaccinating 200,000 Samoans in 30 days, creating the law of love, which is when the government has jurisdiction over children, over parents. And that really opened my eyes, and we were expecting some type of virus. And if you see my pinned tweet, it's a parody on vaccine hesitancy, and I call it vaccine mania. and vitriol disorder. And that was last year. And come January, Zach was doing some independent work for Alex Jones. And I'm like, let's do a man on the street on the coronavirus. And you can see that I say, I'm calling this the virus that didn't cry wolf. And I could read his thoughts, like, what the fuck is she talking about? And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, this is what this means, the Rona regime. And so then I spent thousands of hours covering the Rona, and then got diverted by covering the elections, and seeing with my own eyes the amount of fuckery, the fraud. And then just came back from the Capitol, and now kind of just licking my wounds, and which you can talk about, and just kind of pivoting. And I think I need a little bit of a timeout to reassess things. And in the sorry, I'll just say, like, I was in Florida for the American Priority Conference, and then I did a talk alongside Del Bigtree and Dr. Carrie Madej and Erin, the nurse whistleblower. And I was so honored because I've been covering these people too, and then lost my YouTube channel, ironically, while I was covering the Punch Google lawsuit. And now, since returning from the Capitol, have lost thousands on Twitter. And it's just like they're purposely, people are fragmented. They don't have a central place to connect. It's a lot of work to create content and then to also put it out there, especially if you're a smaller fish. Like a lot of the bigger people, because I never really cultivated YouTube branding because I was busy dealing with the company. They're censored, but they still have that audience. Whereas I was just building in 1 year, I had 6,500 people and was creating a rhythm, and then just lost the whole.
Well, that's something that, I can relate to. I built a lot. Everything that has happened is because I tried to, I was only on Twitter until somebody reached out to me about a year and a half ago, and I started doing deep dives and going on. And I just recently started my channel, which is why I'm still here. Let's see how long it lasts. But
that's awesome.
But I got axed from Twitter with the other 70,000 people. I had been very active on there. I tried to only put out what I knew was honest and true. And I do my own research for real. And it's a different level of work than a lot of people are doing. I don't need any board or any group or anything. I just need to look at what's going on, assess it, and do my own research. I know you're the same way. And there's just not enough of us. I too went to journalism school at NYU. So and then film, and you actually then made a film. So we have a lot in common. But
you were living in LA, right?
Yeah, for 15 years.
Where?
I lived for 15 years in Laurel Canyon and West Hollywood, which after the purge comes, I would like to go reclaim my house in Laurel Canyon. But first they have to clean that thing out. So
beautiful. I lived in Laurel Canyon I'll just say, like, in a place where supposedly John Lennon lived.
Oh, wow.
And it was a tree house, and we had to walk 49 steps. It was so gorgeous.
I had friends who lived in a tree house there. Maybe it's the same one, but yeah, no, Laurel Canyon is the most beautiful. I would sit outside at the pool, and it's heaven. It's heavenly. I see why it's so coveted, except for it's been infested by demons that will need to be cleared out. And then I'll go back, because there's going to be a big wide opening out there. But right now I'm in Manhattan, obviously. But that's interesting. I forgot about what happened with Google, not with Zach, but with you, because I actually did a show last night, because I really, this deplatforming, this depersoning, it's like a modern day
digital assassination.
Yeah. And it's when it's the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany. They started with any professors, any journalists, any scientists, and any medical doctors that were not towing the line for the Nazi propaganda were dehumanized. And that's what this is doing. It's dehumanizing us. Or in the camps, I have family that are survivors and stuff. Once they took all their stuff, they just put a tattoo on them, and that's who they were for the rest of their lives. And that's how I felt when, not to that extent, but I just felt like they just took away my whole person. They just erased my person, and I had a lot of followers and all that. And it was just like, where do you go now? I want to keep talking because I feel like I'm getting somewhere and it's important. And you just feel totally dehumanized. You feel like, oh my God, they stole my voice, they
That's what they
stole my
want.
contact. Right. And then the flip side was they took away Trump. So all of us suddenly had a blackout from him, and which I think I cannot believe. I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out, but like suddenly he was deep persons, basically. All his voice was taken away while he was still in office. And what went on with the, it's the biggest gaslighting I've ever seen on such a large scale next to the COVID. And it's really amazing to me because I have friends that voted for Joe Biden, and they were so excited and so happy. And I kept thinking, how do they not know that
Just wait.
we are talking about everything that you and I and all the Union of the Unwanted People have been warning about? They just signed on to. And, it's because of the lack of, I believe, education, the rewriting of our history, all of that. But then today I saw that Joe Biden is putting the head of the refugee program at the UN on our southern border to run the border security. And my heart just broke because, I've really tried to get out there a lot of information about the child human trafficking ring that is running the planet financially. And now we have somebody who, again and again, the UN, when it comes to child trafficking, they're always right there. And every day it's going forward. He took the bust of Churchill out, who saved Europe basically from the Nazis, and put in Cesar Chavez on the first day. And I just looked at this and I thought what you thought, which was, well, I need to regroup. This is completely insane. But I have gotten some good information that it's not what it seems. So, more of a message that I want to talk to you about too is the healing that you've done over time. And I know right now you're in the middle of the phase where you feel like you need to heal yourself. What are some actions that you would suggest people take? Like one I saw this morning, I love Kathy O'Brien. I don't know if you know who she is. She's the original whistleblower on MK Ultra from the 70s and 80s, and she wrote this book Transformation. But she had a good idea about it, just to write down that when you write, because they've really sucked out our logic and our ability to reason and to connect dots, and you and I do that instinctively, but most people don't have the time or don't think to research for themselves or whatever, and are just being fed this information.
Or don't see details or don't look under the surface.
Right. And she said to write it down, maybe writing it down, like what you're seeing compared to what, or you go ahead, tell us, what do you think? How can people kind of cope right now, you think?
Well, I'm not really doing the things that I used to do when I was in the jungle or what I've done, because I've been so consumed with trying to look under the surface and decipher, because I call them tries, truth mixed in with lies. And, as a journalist that can be discredited, I really do try to source things. So for instance, I'll just jump and say, I'll go back to the things that I suggest, which is nature mostly, but I was looking, there's talk, which is a fact, that this is United States is a corporation,
right,
and that it's bankrupted. So I've been looking for the deeds to the White House, and I came across a bankruptcy suit, which I don't think is the main bankruptcy suit, but it involves these two very strange people that embezzled money from the United States, and they have ties to China. They have DBAs. And there was a letter from the president talking about the bankrupted United States. And it had an order of 78 pages, and I've been sharing it on Telegram, where it really explains the Federal Reserve and the United States as a corporation compared to uncorporated, the republic, how the army is beholden to the Constitution. So this was the first time that I saw an actual document that backs up a lot of the seeds that we're now seeing in the narrative.
Right.
So I'll say that you could run with it.
No, that's what I feel positive about, because I was down there and I was with some really interesting people that do seem to know what's going on. If anyone hasn't noticed, the the National Guard haven't left, and it wasn't a beautiful day as portrayed in the inauguration that we saw. And there's a lot of strange things going on, and it's not what it seems. And what I'm told, and we're all getting attacked right now. I got attacked so bad the other day, but I can only say what I know, and then people have to do their own research.
Totally.
Because you broke a story that came out. You were one of the first people that broke about the election fraud and how wide ranging it was, and the foreign interference and all that. And then and people were saying it's not true, as they do everything. But it actually turns out that DNI Radcliffe gave on the 14th, I believe, Trump the report, and it says for sure that 6 foreign nations and 20 U.S. nationals, which are a government, and probably some big tech and other guys, are complicit in the yes, of course, the most him and the other one. But I already hear that they're both already taken over by the CCP a long time ago. Because remember, one time when I was on with you and Zach, I talked about that Fifi Lee that took over Twitter AI. The minute she did, Trump got his first flag. So, they're all on top of that. And then, well, what I'm told is that he got the report, he gave it to the Pentagon, which triggered something called DEFCON, which means that we're under attack by a foreign power. And as you're saying right now, yes, the US is a corporation. The US is a corporation owned by the Vatican. Right. So apparently the Vatican and the City of London own the District of Columbia Corporation of the United States. They are a foreign entity on our soil that we have been paying our US tax dollars to for since 1871. And they're all in on it, all of them. Every single person that works in DC at the top level knows that they've been robbing us. And again, the Fed is the private bank, and the IRS is a private organization that works for the Fed. So when you look at it like that, and then on top of that, what I was told is that these markers, I followed that military back channel, but it wasn't my main source, but there were markers 11.3, 11.4, 11.6, 11.11, and it would say something next to it, and people thought those were dates. And what it turns out is that they're actually the Department of Defense Law of War, Article 11 book on military occupation of a foreign power or terrorist threat on our soil.
Yeah. Yes.
And apparently that's where we are now. The thing is, the reason we don't know that, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on, but the reason we don't know that is because the military intelligence doesn't need to get permission. And in this 11.3, the thing that's in 11.3 says no legal notice needs to be given by the military to the Congress or Senate. And then the next one is that 11.4 and 11.6, they say that 3 kinds of military jurisdiction will be taken over in this incident: state, territory, and district. And in this case, they're now labeling the District of Columbia, which is why they're going to push right away to make the District of Columbia a state. They're pushing for that to be designated a foreign enemy combatant on US soil, which is why I'm told that the National Guard is actually surrounding the 10 by 10. Now, DC is only 10 miles by 10 miles, and that they're surrounding it right now. And that right now, actually, we are in a state called continuity of government.
Exactly. Yes. I'd love, when you're done, I'd love to tell you, because I spoke to an intel officer and I was pouring till 1 a.m. Over this lawsuit that I found. And so the intel officer pretty much said there's a soft commie takeover. We're surrounded, just like with Canada. Mm-hmm. And DC is in foreclosure, arguably, which is why I'm trying to find the deed and see who owns it, and that the original White House is Mar-a-Lago, where Trump is. And so who bankrupted the United States? I mean, this America Corporation has gone. Lincoln, I believe, was the first to
Lincoln.
Solve it.
Yeah, Lincoln, and then Jackson, who Trump had on his wall behind him,
which was removed.
Right. Well, now we have Cesar Chavez bust in the White House. Who knew?
Yeah, which is like arguably the Castle Rock Productions is this Mickey Mouse set.
Yes, exactly.
Arguably, the inauguration was, if Charlie Ward is saying that he saw the inauguration at what would be 1 a.m. DC time, when was it filmed? It was a Hollywood cheesy production of Swamp Creatures.
Right. Also, did you notice how sunny it was? It happened to have been terrible weather. And then on top of that, you and I know about Epstein Island. Most people got gaslighted about Epstein Island through Netflix, saying that it was like just some island where they took young girls. And you and I know that that's not even close to the evil and the satanic disgustingness of Epstein Island, and on every level that he's involved in: transhumanism, banking, stealing money. But I looked at it and I thought, oh, great, it's an Epstein Island spirit cooking reunion episode on E. That's
right, with Lady Gaga and that big ass Bible that
with the upside down cross, and then Kamala wouldn't even touch the Bible. She put her handbag in between.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, check that out. Yeah, it was. I said either Satan's laughing at us because he won, or they're pointing us to these people on purpose. And
So if DC is martial law and on lockdown, you can't leave. So is Lady Gaga stuck in DC, or does she get special privilege? Where are they?
Here's the thing. This is true. Some people think that now that airspace was blocked, and nobody in DC that day, like there weren't crowds that could watch this. Okay, this wasn't visible from the street. I was just there. You were just there. You can get right up to it, even with the new gate that I saw and the big FEMA structure, whatever that is. But, there's some people who say that was shot in an earlier date and not that didn't really happen. Now, we can't obviously say that, of course, we're, the original people to be attacked. But a lot of things happen that don't make sense, especially the weather. That's the thing that I was like, why is it so... It looks so sunny and beautiful. I mean, it was crazy.
It was windy. I saw that it was windy.
Yeah, but the people in DC said that it was dark and foggy. It was a bad day. But, who knows? Who knows what they can do?
Right. Who knows? It's locked down. Nobody can go there. Right. They use the insurrection. Right. We're now all domestic terrorists. And just to go back to that day where...
Oh, my God.
I've done I'm creating a timeline, and I'll put out the part 2. Right. And I just want to share... Part of my experience was, I was going to the medical plaza, the Freedom Plaza, to cover Zach's talk and see, that's my beat, vaccine safety and medical freedom, and the possibility that I was going to get 5 minutes. And then I basically walked to Freedom Plaza, then a mile to the Capitol, then back to the Freedom Plaza, then back to the Capitol. I was looking for someone, and then I went into the Rotunda. I was scared. I have claustrophobia.
Right.
So, and I was freezing because I'd been up since 5:30 in the morning I was privileged to be 4 rows from the president and get a vibe from him. Anyway, so then I was scanning for someone that had a good head on their shoulders. I'm very good, to read people. So I went up to this gentleman, and I don't know what made me ask this, but I'm like, do you know Matt Couch? And it turned out it was his videographer.
Oh my God.
Do you want to go?
Gods. Yeah. Wow.
You want to go back inside? I'm like, yeah. So he covered me. He was like, I felt so blessed, and he felt blessed too, because his memory had run out on his phone. So I covered him. And so I was in there, and I was watching the tear gassing. And then I started seeing people that, it's like, what in this picture doesn't fit? So one pattern that I saw was like people dressed with green caps. And I saw it as like a Hollywood casting, right? Wear a green cap or a helmet, wear something green. So that 20-year-old Riley was wearing a green. She's the one who supposedly stole Pelosi's computer to give it.
I don't know what that's like. She's
a big Ruth Ginsburg fan. She doesn't look like a patriot. She's 22, probably. A lot of these SJWs. So then one guy beside me, I'm like, what do you think is going to be accomplished with this destruction? And it was like he was given lines. He's like, we have to take the swamp creatures out. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we have to. And I'm like, what do you think? This is like a Game of Thrones episode?
Yes.
And we were saying, stop the violence, stop the violence. And there was one guy and then in retrospect, I went through the footage, because what happened was Jason then asked me, can you give this footage to Rudy? And so after covering the elections and watching Rudy and then walking in and meeting him, and reading him and be like, this guy's really like sincere and earnest and working hard. And so I felt honored. And then in his first common sense video about the riot, he featured my footage and he featured Zach's footage, which was honor. And so I went back in my footage and I took snippets of strange looking people, which in retrospect, like I'm there and I'm cold and I'm just freezing and trying to not get squashed. So I saw this one guy who's holding a camera, but it was more like a prop. I've dated photographers. I know how you handle the camera, and it was a prop, and he had a tear gas mask. So in retrospect, who are they catching? All of these, like John Sullivan, who happened to get all this footage of Ashley Babbitt, who in one video, he does an FAQ about him being asked by the FBI and says, yeah, I'm a journalist. This is all my footage. And then I see another clip where he's like, yeah, I use that line all the time. It works.
Right. No, I have people that were there too, and that they met, they were kind of infiltrating it. And they met earlier, and he was there, and he was with a well-known videographer from CNN, and that they were changing into MAGA stuff. And they have video that's been turned over of him, the CNN guy, and one other guy being like, "We did it," and, and all this stuff. And then number two, they knew 2 days before that this was going to happen. Pelosi, Schumer, all of them. Donald Trump was still speaking when the riot initially happened. Second, a friend of mine confirmed, she's pretty in the know and has a lot of military that tells her stuff, that they're probably in your footage, that there were 4 guys who didn't match any of the other people, and that they were special ops, and that those are the guys who really went in and got the laptops, because I'm told that they have 18 laptops.
18?
From that day.
So Jake was in the Navy. Ashley was also a veteran. The death, I mean, I'm conflicted about her death.
Dead? Me too. I don't understand what happened here. Why? Like I've seen so many false flags. People don't believe it. But that guy, John Sullivan, was right there to shoot it. And if you look at the footage, there's a guy right behind them that's not even stressed at all. Some woman just got shot in the neck, and there's no one's panicking. Even the cops seem calm. Second, it looks very clear that the Capitol Police were inviting these people in. You can't say Donald Trump incited a riot when the police are in on it.
All I say, the only way to storm a Capitol is if someone lets you storm a Capitol. Right. Come on now. Exactly. Like there's footage of the cops like feigning resistance. What I saw with Ashley's, I did see the footage where there's one thing I'm like, man, if this person really died, there's so much chaos and no one's holding space, no one's honoring.
They weren't even getting down to tie the wound. It was her neck. So you would first thing you would do is stop the bleeding. No, it didn't make any sense. And I mean, it was their funeral. I don't want to say it. I don't know. All I'm saying is there's no answers, and it wasn't even in our press stinks, but nobody seems to have any information on this situation. And it really does look staged, whether she's an innocent victim of a staged event or whatever. But if you look at that footage that is going around, that's actually from John Sullivan, whoever was filming him, it does not look like, it looks like it's a production. We've been on enough movie sets to know what it looks like. Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Did you see the footage? The thing that made me feel like it was real is I saw her eyes and the positioning of her legs, and I was just like sensing, and I was like, okay, then it is possible. But wouldn't the blood be gushing every time her heart is pumping? Wouldn't there be backsplash?
Yes, that's why I couldn't understand why they're not wrapping her neck. And then the other thing is, look, she might have been a victim. Look at what happened in Vegas. They killed all those people. That was a false flag. So to me, I think that, in my opinion, so to me, I don't know what the story is with that, but I do know that there was no incitement of a riot because the riot was planned. And
Right.
I know that Pelosi and Schumer, what I'm told is on Pelosi's laptop, which was sitting open and it wasn't in a conference room, that there's proof that she knew that this was going to happen, that they were all acting that day. And that they set it up to send Trump out with this ridiculous
And to
stuff.
shit on
All of
QAnon,
us.
to make us domestic terrorists. Where was the FBI all summer? Do you know that they're now in LA? My friend told me there's a billboard for FBI and that it's all over the country. He said he'd send me. So they're putting
Call out
billboards
your neighbors.
for the, if you know someone who's been at the
Right.
Capitol. Yeah. And I like just yesterday, people in Telegram groups were like, yeah, the FBI called me today. The FBI came to my house.
I know one person. Do you know Simona Gold, who's done nothing but tried to help people? I know you know about her. She was arrested.
Yeah.
She
says she regrets it.
Well,
I don't regret it. And I have.
Does she regret, though, really? Does she regret that, that they're destroy? I mean, I guess she regrets it right now because she just spent a night in jail for no reason. But it wasn't supposed, it was actually a peaceful protest that was hijacked.
Beautiful. I say in my piece that there's the bystander effect. Everybody wants to see what's going on. They know this. They bank on. Then you have the agitators and provocateurs. There's another person that I met named Sarmo that I think that he shared his content, his footage with James O'Keefe, and then also with the Rudy team that put him in touch, where he sees he's following the agitators saying, go in, take stuff. And so I also see people that when they're breaching, that I could see that they're debating whether they should do it or not.
Right.
And so they're banking on that. And now, seriously, we're all domestic terrorists. They're talking about deprogramming us. They're talking about.
There's fellow Americans that are cheering that on. But, I have a lot of friends I grew up with that, unfortunately, I see what they're saying. They actually believe this. And the craziest part is there is no Q cult or Q group. It's a page on a website that you can find, just like Facebook. Then Facebook is a cult, and then Facebook is a terrorist group, because then it's all been smoke and mirrors. It's all phony. And then you see all these people come out, that they're not, the movement isn't violent. It's never been. Why were there all of these Trump rallies? Over 1.5 million people attended Trump rallies last month, right before the election, and not one violent incident. Yet there's violence that day. It makes no sense. And what you were talking about before, last night was talking to somebody about Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these people that are involved. Most people probably don't, but most of them were funded by In-Q-Tel or helped along by the CIA. The CIA really is, I believe, from the beginning has been 110% against we the people, working for that corporation. And it appears to me that this is another CIA led, path of destruction to destroy America from the inside out. The goal of the CIA has always been, in my opinion, communism, and they want the one world order, and it's just true. And this really helped demonize all of us to maybe propagate the idea that some people need to be dealt with and censored and silenced and all that. This is the playbook of Hitler and Goebbels all over again. And like you and I know, it's the same people. It's the same people. It's the same
players. They're making it also, they're tying it to a race war.
Right.
And QAnon from this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The intel officer that I spoke to said that Q had started organically and then was co-opted and was a psyop. I mean, I always look like people who have TDS. It's like, well, thank Trump for bringing all this shit to the surface.
Right.
Look at things in a positive way of where we are. I mean, right now, I feel like he invited us and that he said, and so I look at everything and I do think it's political theater and that we're in a reality show. And I really do feel I was used as a background actor in this beautiful protest. And that's why I went, because I have gone to other conservative events and there's such a warmth. There's there's something there, and despite of all the fuckery, the energy was positive. I'm like, look
Right.
at, like, Joey could only wish that
This
as
is
many people could
America.
show up. Are you kidding me? How many closet Trumpers I've met, and in the end, he represented the Constitution and the people. And the intel officer said that Trump was an operation, and a successful one on so many levels.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
still don't know. I look at it both ways. Maybe it's my Gemini moon. I look at, I try to look at all perspectives. I try to listen to as many voices, and I try to connect dots where others don't, and just put it out there. I was never like, I was getting like back secondhand fumes from about Q from Zach. And I like symbology and connections. And it's now sad that they're saying they're terrorists, and the
Well,
gas.
first of all, the Q team started after JFK, so they've been around a long time. And what I've been told by my father was in the military Coast Guard Auxiliary, and really he lives in Palm Beach. So he talks to a lot of people. He's very patriotic. He goes to the American Legion and stuff. What I'm told about all of this, whether people want to believe it or not, is that this is a group of now mostly retired, but some active military that knew that the CIA had been involved in JFK's murder and a lot of other horrible things over the years. Iran Contra. I mean, every war every color revolution, everything in Syria, Libya, all of this, the Iranian regime, when they destroyed Iran and made it into a totalitarian nightmare. And anyway, the CIA was JFK's mission was to destroy the CIA. We know that George H.W. Bush was running it then, who comes from Nazi and bloodline, history. And basically the UN was always put here to lead us to the one world order. And the COVID was the last stand of the cabal. And right now we're on the precipice of one way or the other, because I don't believe the military is going to let that happen. I also know that people have told me behind the scenes, Putin, even G, and a lot of other people, Modi, other people, Brazil, Mexico, these people will not allow America to become a communist country. And what I do believe is that Joe Biden was inaugurated as the new CEO of the corporation of the United States of America.
Which is bankrupt?
Right. That from my understanding, when all 50 states, first of all, we've always been in a state of war. So Trump's had extraordinary power this whole time because they never ended the war on terror that he has not used at all. And that's because for optics, I believe. But two, what it looks like is that, when the COVID came and all 50 states called an emergency, and he had to say he needed all 50 states so that the federal government could come in. Well, that's when Mnuchin took, for the first time ever, took control of the Fed. Now, that was the beginning of the end for them, because the private Fed owned by the Bank of International Settlements, really in Switzerland, the Rothschild banking cabal, has never been audited. Well, when they open those books, according to people I'm talking to, like Charlie and those guys, when they open those books, the amount of money laundering and fraud and just manipulation, all of the crashes, 2008, all of this, it is just, from what I got, and as Charlie's talked about, they've already located like $23 quadrillion that this group of 3,000 people are sitting on. And that this was the first time ever they were audited. And then it led to the audit of the Vatican. And then obviously all roads led to the city of London, which is not London, it's the Rothschild Bank of London. And then everything really all leads back to the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, which was started by the Rothschilds. And that bank was started when they were liquidating the Jews and stealing all their gold and their money and everything. It would go there. And all these years, I believe we've been psyoped into believing that Switzerland is neutral, where I think most of the whole New World Order and the structure and the Rothschild central banking, debt slavery, warfare is all based out of there. So, I think this is way bigger than us. And I never thought it was about Trump. I actually was told, my parents, like I said, live in Palm Beach. I've worked at Mar-a-Lago. I've been down there around those people. I was told a long time ago that Trump truly was approached because they were doing, not that he wasn't always involved and had friends and stuff.
Yeah,
It always made me laugh because when I worked at Mar-a-Lago, like world leaders stayed there. That's where they stayed. Gorbachev stayed there, Desmond Tutu, Mandela, all these people. And because there's only like 12 rooms, so it's super safe if you're coming.
When did you work there? In 2017? When?
No, God, no. I
Oh, a
worked
long time ago.
kid.
Do you know it's the original White House?
Yes, and well, who owned it? Merriweather Post, the Post family. I didn't know that it was the original White House. You told me that just now, but I know that it was the Post family. It was like she was like the richest woman in the country.
I need to look at that, but
Yeah.
I think there's no mistake that he's going there. I don't know how long.
Well, that's because what they're saying is when there's 65,000 troops still in DC right now. There's something going on, but they're saying that entire District of Columbia is going to be destroyed because of the satanic stuff and the underground.
Weren't the Coast Guard sent home this morning or yesterday and treated?
Maybe the Coast Guards, but I don't think most
was
of
it Coast Guard or National Guard?
Well, two places pulled out the National Guard. What happened was Congress kicked them out of the area, and they had to go stay in a parking garage. So Trump calls and says, "Put them up in my hotel, if not my hotel, wherever you can, and I'll pay for it." 10 minutes later, of course, Congress says they can come back. But no, they're still.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that part. I heard that his offer.
Oh, yeah. No, you'll see. They had to counter that. But no, I'm told that the entire District of Columbia is done. It's done. And that that there will be, like you're saying, a new White House. Because also, as you know, there's a lot of satanic stuff that also
the owl.
Yeah, but also the obelisk, a lot of it connects. There's a sundial. Like I've done a whole show on all the satanic stuff at the UN. It's unbelievable. They run by this Lucis Trust, Luciferian Alice Bailey, 10 rules.
1 second. I'm on camera. Saki.
Hi, hero. He's a hero.
Do you need something? I don't know. His.
How's he doing? People might not know about Zach. How's he doing? He's a weird whistleblower, real hero in America, more than people realize yet.
I think we both cried the day of the farewell. Both felt similar, and just I think now that we're both looking into finding a deed or bankrupt or something, that he feels.
Do you know about the I talked about it the other day. I know Charlie reported it and he sent me the stuff that there was, after they found out apparently that Gina Haspel was involved in the election fraud on the highest scale and helping cover it up, that they got a warrant last weekend while all the troops were there and raided the CIA.
No, I have not. Do you have anything to send me?
I do. I will send it to you after this, and you guys will be blown away. I am told that this is 100% really happened, and that would make sense because apparently what they found on there is irrefutable evidence of so many crimes. I'm telling you, the CIA has been in America to work against the American people the entire time, and
all these alphabets.
Yeah, but the worst demon was that Brennan. Oh God! And did you see him yesterday calling for the rounding up of everyone, including libertarians? What? That's why like we have to be watching a movie. This can't possibly be happening.
And this is very Hegelian. I want to share just some of my notes with this intel officer. I don't know, and so this is like some bullet points that someone can go off. So I'm just seeding the conversation. So I don't know if you've heard of Operation Icarus, but let's say Icarus is God that I think fell to his death. So we've seen a lot of notables fall from their deaths. So the Rothschild, the Sweden Saccharin guy, there was there was someone who leapt to their death with a baby.
Stephen Bing from the Clinton Foundation, huge Hollywood producer, jumped from his building not too long ago.
Who? Tell me again.
Stephen Bing, he's a
Okay.
Clinton Foundation co-founder with Epstein and Clinton. He was a big Hollywood producer. He jumped to his death recently as well.
So there's something that's going on in regarding to blackmail operations.
Right, that's for sure, yes.
And back channel economics. So there's the 8 bishops who supposedly all died of COVID. And just give me. So the blackmail, inflation is slow poison, and basically NSA and all the other alphabets have been crooked. The January 6th was kind of a rushed and manufactured siege to rationalize military occupation. We've been under threat, infiltrated in every facet of government. Think of President Trump's invisible enemy. That Trump presidency has been in operation from the beginning.
Yep.
And do you want to continue to control the continuity of government level 1, which you mentioned? So to the public, if they look under the surface, it's kind of a Hollywood cheese-ass production, but there's a delineation between the unincorporated republic and the corporation. Okay, I'm just going
to keep going. It's fascinating.
FEMA was activated in DC under lockdown.
Right.
We are on the eve of World War III. And there's mentioned something which I didn't look, Smith, 2012, a PSYOPs.
Smith-Mundt Act. I know what it is.
Let's talk about that a little. Yeah. What is that?
So what the Smith-Mundt Act is that during the Second World War, they put in the original Smith-Mundt Act, which said that the American agencies could use propaganda overseas in wartime to manipulate public and overseas. Well, in 2012, Obama changed the Smith-Mundt Act, modernized it, and made it that the government and our newscasters and our everything can use propaganda in quote unquote wartime, which we have been under the war on terror, against the American people. The Smith-Mundt Act of 2012 that Obama did to use propaganda on the American people is why I believe these news channels think that they're getting away with this. The biggest crime on humanity to me in this whole thing has been the psychological, emotional, and spiritual torture that the mainstream media and a bunch of rogue politicians have inflicted on human beings. People with the fear and the isolation. If what I'm told happens and we find out that SARS was just manipulated and that this is just another SARS flu, and then the real thing is the vaccine with the nanoparticles, and that this is actually true, because a lot of people don't know, I know you know, but a lot of people don't know that COVID is certification of vaccine identification. That's what it stands for. So when you call it the Rona, I call it the Rona, but people are going around calling it COVID. COVID is the vaccine, not the illness, right?
Yeah, COVID-19 is they've made it a disease, but it's bullshit, and they also want to make it a pre-existing condition. I want to go back to. I find it interesting that around New Year's they were circulating images from Wuhan showing them the people more free than us,
right?
And that now the mainstream media is talking about it not coming from a wet market, which we knew, and admitting to the involvement of the Wuhan Virology Institute. So I find that really interesting. Like, really now, a year later, you're
right. Well, what happened yesterday?
Why?
Because this was about an election, not about not about an illness. And about making us so broke and desperate that we begged the UN to come in and save us, thus transferring us to the New World Order. And the other thing is that, because this was all in Project Lockstep, in the Rockefeller Foundation wrote that report in 2010. This plays out exactly as it has. It's the 16-year plan to destroy America. People call that, I tell everyone, just look up everything I say that you think sounds far-fetched and you'll find it. Not anymore on Google. but go to one of the other search engines.
I use Quant to tell your
Oh, I just
audience.
learned about that. That's good.
UWANT. I've been using that, and like when I want to look for matrixy bullshit shit, I
Right.
go to Google. And I use a sundry, and that's why it's like, you talk about actually being a journalist and doing the research. Well, now it's like doubly hard. You have to have discernment to be able and have a sense of not being memory hold, to be able to have a sense of what is regurgitated.
Right.
Like Lou Dobbs had given when he was interviewing Sidney Powell, and it's like, yo, mofo, why don't you tell your audience that you did this story in 14 years ago? If you or I was a journalist, wouldn't you say, oh, this is back on my desk, I'm covering it again?
Right.
So this is recirculating scripts, and people not realizing, because things are memory hold, and people have the attention span of a gnat.
Right. Well, I was reading yesterday how you brought up, we could talk for like 5 hours. We'll do another one so that we can talk more. But I was reading yesterday about what you're talking about, and about how DARPA, with that LifeLog and everything, how that, apparently it looks like became Facebook. It was the same, but that it was also that, how you're saying memory hold and stuff, that thing where they send you like your memory from like da 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 and all this. It's like mental mind manipulation. That everything that Facebook was created at DARPA, really to have a file on every single human being that we would willingly sign on to. No, but most people don't know that. And I've been saying to people also, go on and check all your settings, because we're being throttled. You're being throttled. Everyone that's in our community is feeling like we're being spied on. And, at this point, I just tell everyone, like, tread lightly, because they have files on all of us that we willingly handed over. We handed over all of our information on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. So, and if that is funded, partially even by Inkitel, which is the CIA's hedge fund, then they have access to anything they want on any of us at any time. And that's terrifying. It's like, you talk about the technocracy a lot. And, that's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, techno fashion. I'm just gonna look to see if I have any other nuggets
Right.
before we wrap up.
Yeah, and then we got to keep doing it, because
I would love that.
I think it's going. I have to tell you honestly, I really do believe and hope and pray, but I think that it is what we think, or what I think, which is that the corporation of the United States is defunct, and right now Joe Biden is the CEO of a defunct foreign corporation that has insurrected our country with the help of other foreign governments, to the extent that the military had to take over. So I do believe that's true. I still believe God's in control and God wins. I do not believe the military generals who have sacrificed their lives would ever allow America to be a communist socialist country run by China. I just don't. I can't believe the optics. I don't. I believe too much in God and country and military to ever think that this is ever going to be allowed.
I thank you, Mel, and I think that we help one another in these times where we feel like demoralized, and we know that's part of their communist strategies. And then now we're going through a period of normalization, that all of a sudden the governors are like, oh, okay, no lockdown. Okay.
I know. Could you believe it? Oh my God. If that's not the first big red pill, if people did not get it, was that $700 billion in that COVID bill was going to go overseas. When we have homeless people, mentally ill people all over the streets, people are struggling, and they actually put out that bill with pride. The
5,000 pages.
$700 billion of what? Our taxpayer money. Just like we paid for the Iran deal, just like we paid for the Paris Accords. This is money laundering and greed on the highest level from these demons that work at the corporation of the United States. But then the second one was, the minute he wins, the WHO announces the PCR test gives false negative case readouts, which the guy who created it said, we both talked about
it.
Yeah, and then he died. And then on top of that,
died August 2019. Sorry, just like, how fucking convenient.
Right. And he came out and said it. So they picked, just like Dominion servers, they picked a faulty test that they could manipulate. And so the head
And then
of,
deny it.
right. And then Chicago, even though there's hundreds of million people, including you, because I think you're one of the first people in Union I heard about it from, that it was a easily.
I've been saying it since February of last year. The
I know.
PCR
I
test is
definitely
a non-diagnostic. This is the magic crux, and others like Celia Farber, who interviewed Carrie Mullis, because they did the same shit with HIV
Oh, wow. Yeah,
AIDS.
exactly.
And
Which goes back to Fauci.
exactly, I was just going to say he's the pandemic impresario. When I was doing research, I found, so when when this first came out and we were looking at all the predictive programming and looked at contagion, and I was like, I found out that the CDC pays its employees to watch soap operas, which I find so telling, the infiltration of cheesy ass Hollywood and the manipulation.
Right.
So when I found that the corruption of the CDC, I lost my train of thought. Oh, with contagion. So I knew that they went to the WHO, they went to the CDC for consult. But then I
Right.
was looking at, and there's this guy named Larry Brilliant who worked with the WHO, who worked with Google, and he's in at the Aspen Institute. He's alongside Fauci, and he says,
There you go.
we made that movie. And I'm like, we? You weren't even working at the WHO. Who's we, buddy? And they use that, and it's like they took that and I'm like, let's slap it on the world and let's see how it works out on top of all the other predictive
Oh, we could do a
programming.
whole show on that. I got plenty. Yeah, you know why? Because once they put the idea out there, then they can manipulate it. Once they put it out there, and don't forget that the whole movie on the pandemic was playing on Netflix the minute that they locked us down. So that was like they were doubling down on it. It's extreme MK Ultra, and everyone bought into it. That woman, Kathy O'Brien, she was talking about when she was in the MK Ultra, and she was it was a nightmare, her story, but that they used masks are to dehumanize you, and social distance is to make you avoid speaking so that you can't share ideas and
And
thoughts.
also the resonance of the heart is like 6
6 feet,
feet.
right? I
The
read that.
heart has so much more magnetism, and we're a society that's disembodied and caught in our heads, and I don't see enough a spiritual aspect to this. This is spiritual warfare. I know you know that. I don't see enough heart, and I don't see enough self-awareness. And it's
Right.
like when I almost died, like when I had my near-death experience, I saw like know thyself. And then later when I was living in Greece as a digital nomad, and I was in Delphi, where the bee goddesses were, and in Latin I saw know thyself, and it was just, I wish that for humankind, to be able, we live in epidemic of narcissism, and it's okay to have conflict. It's okay. It's just like, can you say sorry? Can you say I was a dickhead right there? And not gaslight someone and not dismiss it can't always be another person's fault. That's right. And wounds come up and shit comes up really so that we can heal it.
Right.
And if we had that perspective of not blaming, which we see everything is, I joke and I'm like, bad hair day, thanks Trump. Like everything is Trump's fault. It's like, if we can transcend past that, and the solution is healing. And now there's such a divide between the left and the right. There's such an abyss.
Really. It's all that's the sad part is here. It was never about Trump, and those who voted for Biden, though he was clearly senile, is a total criminal money launderer. His son is involved in all kinds of shady shit, as he is. The head of the Ukraine wants them extradited, and all of this stuff, all the shady deals with China, all the accusations against him, his shady first wife, the situation, a million things. And they voted for him, even though he's touting propaganda, socialism, and division, because they hate Donald Trump. It's like,
that's the real virus, dude. Fear and hate.
I know.
It's very contagious and infectious. It's like, because you could have the same hatred towards the left. Like when I see the left talking, like I was joking and saying, I took a psychology of cults class and I minored in psychology. And I was saying,
yeah,
we need to look to Stephen Hassan and deprogramming. Then I found out that he wrote a book called The Cult of Trump. And then he was on Fox I think it was Fox or CNN, maybe CNN or Nightly News, saying that we need to deprogram us because we're in a cult.
What do they have on him? That's what I say. What do they have on that guy? I mean, all these people, Chris Wallace coming out, all these people that have turned, believe me, they are protecting themselves. I know that a lot of these Hollywood people, a lot of the media, not only are they lying to us knowingly and committing to me a crime on humanity, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, on purpose, but I believe a lot of them don't have a choice because they are blackmailed themselves. And that's the saddest, most pathetic part. Yeah,
I was
yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking of that, Mel. I was like, how, like, let's say there's blackmail on me. It's like, I would rather come out and come clean. But mind you, like, I don't have, like, my blackmail would probably be like a collection of my customer service calls. Like, that, like, when I'm talking.
My blackmail, I'm happy to talk. I mean, like, you know what the crazy thing is? I always talk to Roseanne about how we were like this cool, but we were never just cool enough to get invited to the island. You know what I mean? Like, thank God. But like there was like a level of debt, and then above here were all the usual suspects, but you never felt like you quite fit in with them. I remember when I was working on my show, they would be like, "Oh, we're going here for the weekend," and we'd be like, "Don't worry, Mel, we'll go somewhere else next week." I'd be like, "I want to go to the island." Thank God. Thank God.
Right. You mentioned Roseanne. When I started covering the censorship, because I started getting censored in 2017, and I was like a Democrat. I thought I was a Democrat, and I remember going for a walk with a friend or a former friend that was seething with hate towards Orange Man, and he's like, "Are you a Roseanne Barr fan?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a freedom of speech fan.
Right.
You watch Roseanne today, you tomorrow." Here we are.
That's what I said. And the truth about what Roseanne said was, A, she didn't know Valerie Jarrett was black, and she's not. She's Iranian. And B, it is the Planet of the Apes. If you ever saw the movie, it's like, I understand, but you don't destroy somebody's life. She is a comedian. But what they did to her is so beyond. What they did to her is so sickening. It's horrific.
I want to say a few things to that. The one, she had a best-selling show about Trump, being Trump supporters.
Well, that's what it was about.
and that if you saw her on Joe Rogan, if you have any sense of discernment, you look at that woman and you tell me if she's more racist than you are.
Right.
Like, seriously, do you not have any? Yes, she should not be drinking and doing Ambien. And Ambien, you've killed on Ambien, eat on Ambien. Like,
Ambien's the worst drug ever. I used to send crazy emails in the middle of the night. I had no recollection. And every time like, Ambien's crazy. I've had people I know that
people have died on meals. Killed people on Ambien. So not to justify it. And then Eli Lilly sent, I think it was Eli Lilly, sent a tweet and said, our medicine doesn't make people racist. No, it makes them murderers and
it makes them black out in an alternate state.
Right.
Still continue to be awake. That's what it does. That's what it does to almost everyone. My sister one time cooked a whole meal, had no recollection.
Right. I'll tell you one interesting thing that I found out about Ambien, because I did a story on Roseanne and Ambien, and I found that in a sliver of people that have been comatose, they would give them Ambien and they would wake up from their coma. And then they did it slowly, and they would recreate neural pathways, new synapses, and then come out of the coma.
Yeah, because you're asleep, but you're not asleep. I'm telling you, I've woken up and gone into work, whatever, and somebody called me and be like, well, in that email you sent last night, I'd be like, wait a minute.
That's scary as shit.
That's why I stopped. I said, you know what? I'd rather be up all night than forget and have been awake and think I'm sleeping. It's crazy.
Right, and do other things, like you wake up and you lost your show and your whole, and like you know, she was pleading. They used her as a scapegoat.
Really, also about, she was the first canceled, but it was really about that she had just put out a show that was not only pro-Trump but pro middle class America. And, she had a daughter on there. There was a lesbian character, a black character. It wasn't racist.
It was her show, and they killed her off.
And then stole the show because she had a contract, everything. And to this day, she has to tread lightly because she has her reruns. They took everything else. That's all she's got right now. And
this is what they do, folks.
Yeah. But it was because of the Trump stuff. They told her, cut it out. And she wouldn't. And then next thing you know, they took one thing and blew it up. Just like they say that we could talk for 6 days, but I was going to say, just like the Russia. They took one thing and they turned it around and created a whole narrative. That's what
People
they,
believe it because you say lies enough times and it becomes truth.
yes, as Goebbels would say to Hitler, you know, it's only a matter of time before they don't know anymore what's real and what's not.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
my love, it's been super
Okay.
fun. We'll reconnect.
Yes.
I feel very positive every time I see your energy. Feel your
Thanks.
energy.
I
can
do
feel it.
too. Let's go to Florida together.
We are. I'm going soon. I have to get out of here.
I have to get out of here.
Yeah,
too.
look at us. We're in where you are and I am. It's like, could we be in worse places for our men? You know,
Right.
I really
No
need
joke.
some sunshine and some ocean that's nowhere near these crazy Democrat cities. Okay, I love you. I will
I
talk
love
to
you
very
too,
soon.
Mel. Have a
Thank
beautiful
you
day.
so much for coming.
Thank
You're such a
you.
smart, beautiful, honestly,
Thank
one
you,
of the most
sweetheart.
intellectual women I've ever seen. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I feel the same.
Okay,
Bye.
talk to you next time.
Bye.